Whoa, camera's on. Yeah, walk and talk video. Sorry, Nick. Yeah, it might not be your style. All the noise and such. Anyway, okay, anesthesia. Yeah, Puro keeps bringing that one up. It's, I have limited experience. I mean, I have, I've done some drugs. I've been knocked out. I don't think I've ever been in shock, though. I don't think. But I mean, I could metaphor it a lot of ways. You could go back to the amphitheater, and let's say that our brain does amplify a kernel, the piano of pain, and you could argue that it just shuts down the amplifiers. That's what kind of happens when you're under the influence of the benign chemistry, power failure kind of thing. Maybe the climate control system requires, a lot of energy to run, so the actors can still have some light and they can still function. But it's darker. Maybe they start seeing things the wrong way. That's why they get a little delusional. They start reading the wrong script because they can't see very well. Because, there's still some light, but there's not much light. And, and the climate, the air conditioner's off because that just takes way too much power. Let's see how else to metaphor it. I like the amplifier thing. My father sort of said that about morphine. He was on it for a couple of years. And, he said the pain was still there, but it's just you didn't care. So it was, it was at a level that was just, it was like it wasn't even the same thing. It was like the odor of the pain. So maybe, a metaphor might be that the climate control is still running, but all there is the smell of the gas. There's no gas. Because somehow it shuts the gas off. But the odor of it's still there, so you still have the sense of the thing, but you don't have the thing anymore. Not so good. The thing that I think is sort of important is that it does sort of have that feature to it where the elves or the dwarves get sort of liberated. They sort of lose their grounding. Imagination starts, they get kind of, that's like nitrous oxide. It really does, you're physically in the world, but you're just perceiving everything a little bit cockeyed and crooked. Everything's kind of bent and twisted. Well, that's not even right. You're just in a good mood. And maybe that's sort of the idea of the pain thing, going back to my argument that, the pain system works by keeping us at a steady state that isn't necessarily a neutral, that we have built into us tensions and irritations that at any time your brain could release you from, but it doesn't. It saves those carrots for the right moment. It gives you your reward if you perform the appropriate behaviors. And maybe that system breaks down, and that's sort of why most of these drugs that do knock you unconscious eventually have the effect of giving you a sense of liberation first. Maybe even that's why dying, people have so many out-of-body experiences that reflect this easing of the burden, because that's the system breaking down. That's when it breaks down all the way. It will disconnect from the idea that it's keeping you in any kind of torment at all, and it basically releases the actors from a chain that was connecting them to the stage, and now they are free to do as they please. They have a liberty they've never experienced. Some kind of, it gets kind of, whatever the word is. Now. Yeah. Damn, I lost your phrase for it. Woo-woo. Yeah, it gets a little woo-woo-y. Yeah. So yeah, I just, brains. I mean, there obviously could be more than one vortex in our brain, so to speak, more than one feedback vortex. I mean, if the brain could fall on something once, it could fall on it twice, and it could fall on it 3 times. So, we're sort of stuck with that. There is the 2-brain thing going on, and that sort of sets you up for the creation of an instrument that creates the feedback. Where the one side of the brain is doing the imaginative stuff, the creative crap, the add-on shit, and one side is doing the, just try to walk right and, see what you see in their focus, the consciousness thing maybe. And the other one's doing the overlay of the manufactured reality, the voices in the head, the sensations in the head, all the crap in the head, But, yeah, so I don't think it's too hard to figure out there's a system, and the system can be clogged or slowed down, or and then what would be the consequence of that. And so I just think anesthesia to different levels is basically just corrupting the native mood system, the environmental control system. And the more you, again, I guess there's a point where we have to say it's producing something that the dwarves, the native state of functionality. And if you take away that, then the dwarves themselves start to go wacky. And, so maybe it is tied to the lights. Maybe tie lights and climate control together. Or maybe just throw out climate control and just go with lights. And the lights start to dim. Things get strange. Yeah. And if the light's burning bright, well then, I guess you could argue that if the lights are too high, the dwarves all start sweating and melting or something, and we could analogize that as pain. But I guess the point is that whatever's going on, the thing we might call an I, or the thing that is our collective reality, the thing that is the net product of this thing that's going on here, that's the experience is that thing altogether, and we call that I'm experiencing. I hear it, I hear the conversation, I see, I feel, I do all this stuff. This body thing does that through its brain. The brain manufactures it as a net product, and it's kind of hard to separate what we might be experiencing as being useless byproduct of the process and what is the process. So, I mean, how much of the theater we have described would not need to be on the stage, would not need to be part of the performance for the performance to continue. And maybe it's just like, for example, the climate control system could be making noises. It could be disrupting optimum performance, because it does make some kind of noise that the actors have to talk over. And that leaks into this thing we call our reality, but it doesn't have any useful function in terms of deciding or orchestrating our behavior. There is that whole part of the performance that takes place in our subconscious, where the elves are doing their thing. The subconscious elements are, stringing together the concepts and measuring them against each other and checking for dissonance and doing all that kind of thing. We don't have access to all that structure of the performance. But we can't. I guess you always got to be aware of it, and I guess we're sort of being aware of it by defining the elves, the dwarves, as dwarves. We just got to remember that they don't have a whole personality. They're just conceptually focused. They're just programmed responders. They're software. They don't really have any. They're completely fudgeable and changeable. By the introduction of a sentence or two, you can, change silly dwarf into brainy dwarf. Let's see, where else do I want to go with this? What's some other point I want to make about this idea of a self? Because that part I'm still thinking that's just one of the silly bits. That's one of the actors, the ego actor, just kind of going, I'm selfing. I mean, it's not really a describable element. It is. I mean, but it's automatically it's going to be. I mean, that part of the reality is automatically a fact of having senses that reach out into the world. I mean, as soon as you have a radar dish, you have a focus, and you have a vortex, and so that's just a consequence of having senses almost, that you're going to be the focal point, because you're going to receive things as a focal point. That's what a radar dish does. I mean, it has a focus. And I don't see that as much of a phenomenon. And they keep making that into something like, I feel like I made a choice. Well, I don't know if you feel it. I think you think it. And when you think something that satisfies your ego, it says, ooh, your penis is an inch longer than I thought it was. Yeah, you feel good. Well, that's all you're doing. You're just basically validating yourself and giving yourself a boost. But that's not something real. That's just that's just elf talk. That's just the elves bullshitting each other. It's not a mechanical part of the brain. And so for him to connect that to anesthesia or to a sense of will, I think it's, apples and oranges, elves and air conditioners, dwarves and air conditioners. Oh, I got elves stuck in my head. Must be that little elf in my yard. It's mind controlling me. So anyway, should have never gave him that blinky color thing. I've given him too much power. Really nice day. Just wish I could get into it. I just wish I could see any kind of reason, for doing this. I'm going to go pretend to be human for a couple hours, do some work, and hopefully I won't kill anybody. And but yeah, I mean, all my dwarfs are like, what do we get for this shit? Oh yeah, we don't get tortured? Oh, super. No torture today. Oh yeah, that's fair. I mean, they all just feel like protesting and just saying, let's strike, let's walk out. This is a preposterously stupid deal. Who's directing this shithole of a production? Mangala? Come on. Anyway, that's a whole side issue. I guess I could throw in a little bit of lazy talk. Yeah, it's okay. I'm hot again. I get hot right at this spot. Isn't that amazing? It must have something to do with physics. Yeah, you walk, 3/4 of a mile and it makes you hot. Yeah, it's probably a physics thing of some kind. So, yeah, I guess I don't really have anything else. My hair didn't dry. Excellent. Not dry. Anyway, so anesthesia isn't that interesting to me. I mean, I think that's just taking whatever the system is, the vortex, and breaking it, dulling it. Throwing sand in the tornado. Throwing digital confetti into the vortex, the feedback, and so it just doesn't feedback very well because the confetti breaks down the infinite amplification, just breaks down the cycling. The thicker the atmosphere, the duller the image, kind of thing. And anesthesia is just an atmosphere thickener. But it certainly, and the last thing it affects is the dwarfs. For whatever reason, they're on the highest ground, so it wipes out the audience and wipes out a lot of this stuff first. But the dwarfs keep trying to dwarf, and they're kind of the last ones to go. The last little silly thought before you fade off into oblivion. Okay, I think I've done my job here. But yeah, I'll watch whatever is Huss and Muffins videos. I won't read the book, but I'll watch some videos. But yeah, if it's a Matt book, it's going to scare the hell out of me. There's got to be some woo-woo in there somewhere. And such. But yeah, and I'll do maybe a more coherent follow-up from my proper indoor conditions without the zapper and such. I really hate to go back indoors. It's all blue and everything. It really is. Man, it's like we're going to skip all the nasty months this year. Be nice. Anyway, till next time. And such and so forth and whatnot.